It's Jonathan Herbst again, founder and CEO of Scale Up Growth Partners. Welcome to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. Today, we're speaking to Rohan Bilimoria. I hope I've pronounced that right, Rohan. Who's founder of Law Ninjas. And this is going to be a really interesting conversation because, well, I'll let Rohan tell you about it. So Rohan, let's just start. What is Law Ninjas and what does it do and how long have you been running it?
Thanks, Jonathan, and thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. So essentially, I have to tell you a little bit about myself because then it'll make more sense as to what Law Ninjas is. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer all my life. And I worked at law firms. I've worked at sort of in-house at companies, including Linklaters and Mayer Brown and KFC and Pizza Hut in places like London and Moscow and Tokyo and Singapore and Sydney. I'm based in Sydney now. And Law Ninjas essentially started off in, I guess, 2017. So exactly 5 years ago, when I first moved into my first in-house role at KFC in Asia. And I think I realized very quickly into my new role that I didn't really know what an in-house lawyer did, because life at a law firm is actually quite different to life inside a company. And so I set up a small WhatsApp group and I called it Law Ninjas because I thought the name sounded cool. And I added 10 of my in-house lawyer friends to it. And the idea behind it actually was for me to be able to ask them questions about tax laws and labor laws and all these things you're meant to know as an in-house lawyer, but I had no clue about. And it just kind of grew from there. People started telling their friends and adding their friends. And now fast forward 5 years later, we're a community. We're a community of a few thousand lawyers and law students around the world. We run workshops and events and webinars. We just hosted a conference in India with Thomson Reuters. I'm hosting another conference in Bangalore in November for general counsels there. So yeah, we're doing a few things and it's a lot of fun.
And what it sounds like it's just grown, by conversation, people recommending it.
Yeah, I mean, although I say it's 5 years old, technically the sort of ramping up only took place this year, I guess in March, when we started bringing on, sponsors and partners in terms of law firms, legal tech companies, recruitment firms, to sort of say, hey, we have this big community. Do you want to do webinars for them? Do you want to host events for them? And so it's been going good, touch wood, so far. And yeah, just seeing how it goes. I have to say though, it's just me bootstrapping it. So still a long way to go in terms of growth.
Great. So when it comes to your core customer, the best customer, it's essentially the entire legal community.
The entire legal community, including lawyers, law students, law professors, basically anyone who has some sort of connection to the law, I guess.
Oh, great. So this is because we're talking about you and without a team. Some of this stuff is, would be hard, maybe hard to answer. So just bear with me on this.
Sure.
So let's just talk about, and I appreciate that you now work for a major corporate. Can you talk to me about what happened within the business during the pandemic, and what actions have the business continued since the pandemic? For instance, I know we talked a little bit about the fact that you're working from home today. So if you could just give me an idea, what you've learned about working during the pandemic.
Yeah. So interestingly, and this may sound a bit weird, but Law Ninjas wouldn't be where it is today without the pandemic, because I think it was back in, early 2021, so almost a couple of years ago now, when we were in the midst of lockdowns and pandemic and all of that, that I realized that I needed to sort of connect with this community that was there by way of some way. Like I needed to figure out a way. And so webinars is what I came up with. So I started interviewing, just like we're doing this interview right now. I started doing live webinars with, lawyers around the world where anyone could dial in and ask questions. So it was meant to be quite interactive and, 45 minutes to an hour sessions. And so that really kind of happened only because people started adopting things like Zoom and Teams and Google Meet and all these things. So without the pandemic, Law Ninjas wouldn't be where it is today. And on, I guess, to answer the second part of your question, how is it kind of after the pandemic? I think now that we've come out of the COVID lockdowns and things, especially in Australia and a lot of other places around the world, I've started hosting. Earlier it was virtual events or virtual webinars, now more in-person events, because I think, and so I was in India, like I said, last month, and I went to 3 cities, did 3 events in 4 days. So it was a bit crazy. And all in-person events. And I think what everybody was saying to me in terms of their feedback was that there's so much pent-up demand for people just to meet each other. You don't have to provide amazing content or amazing lectures or, sessions or, things like that. You just need to get everybody together in a room where they have an opportunity to meet each other, have lunch, have coffee, all of that. And so that's kind of where the business is now going, is more sort of in-person interactions.
Okay, I mean, it's an interesting thing, and I apologize. I don't know if you can hear all the noise in the background.
No, all good.
No, that's good. When COVID hit here, I live in Barrel, which is about an hour and a half southwest of Sydney, and I've done a mixture of Zoom coaching and visiting my clients all around the world since I've been a coach. With the lockdown, it led to all sorts of different decisions for me. And one of the reasons we're doing this Stories of Scaling Up series is because CEOs, they're starving for input that they can learn and get knowledge. And I think that's one of the reasons this is turning into taking a life of its own as a series. The other thing was, I used to have an office in my team in town. We've moved totally virtually. I've bought the house next door to our house, and that is now my office. So my commute is literally climbing over the fence. And that's one of the downsides with the noise next door. We've got an arborist in one of our houses at the moment. But reaching out via Zoom, via YouTube, and as you say, webinars, has been hugely effective for my business and to grow my business. And people love it. But I'm running my first 2 face-to-face workshops for CEOs in October. First time in 3 years now, and we're just being overrun with people. Your point, people who are interested.
Yeah.
So, what does the future look like for Law Ninjas, and what do you think are the major challenges you've got going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the future, like I said, definitely more sort of in-person events. Hopefully, given that it's just me, I think I need to hire a couple of people, at least, virtually or, remote working wise, to kind of help me with logistics and things like that, because events are these big giants where, you think you can do everything on your own, but you can't really. So let's see. The event I'm doing in Bangalore is a good sort of experiment because it's kind of just me doing it. So let's see how we go. Also, Law Ninjas, we're building an app for lawyers and law students. So that's also another big sort of project that I think will hopefully gain some traction within the community. So it'll have a lot of features built into it for both lawyers and law students in terms of webinars and podcasts and resources. So let's see how we go. But I have no idea what the future holds, to be honest. Just keep growing it, just keep having fun with it.
Yeah, and I think that having fun with it is a big thing. I talk a lot with my clients about something my coach taught me about my unique ability, doing what I'm really, really good at and what I enjoy doing, and then surrounding myself with people with different unique abilities to me. And it's fascinating. And my team, they range from my 2 key members of my team are. One is in the Southern Highlands, one is in Sydney. I've got coaches in 4 cities here in Australia, and about one about to join in the UAE. My logistics admin team range from the Philippines to the Ukraine. I've got coaches in the UK and the US, all virtual, and it works really well. But it's about finding the right people.
Agreed.
What do you think's been the biggest? Yeah, and I take the point that it's a one-man band at the moment. But what's been your biggest learning so far since you've started Law Ninjas?
Quite a lot of learnings. I've failed. I've tried things. I failed. Tried new things. Failed at those as well. Pivoted. I think the key one for me is that I thought at the beginning of, I guess the pandemic, when I started doing these webinars and all, I was like, okay, how do I keep this thing going? I want to keep it going, but I can't because an app is super expensive to build. And if I want to do these events, like where's the funding going to come from? And so I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll set up a website. I'll put all my webinar recordings on there, put resources on there, get people to pay like a small subscription fee every month, and hopefully that'll kind of take off, and then I'll be able to retire to a big house in Bowral and drive a Tesla and all of that. Yeah, that didn't happen. I set up the website and everything, but it definitely didn't take off. And I don't know, I didn't do any market research or anything, but I think the key thing that I've learned is that I thought, users, so lawyers and law students, would be the ones where my revenue would come from. I thought I'd charge them cash and sort of say, hey, I'm giving you all these amazing resources, you only have to pay a small fee, should make sense. But it doesn't, because there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of free content out there, more importantly. And so also a monthly subscription fee. Sometimes people, kind of say, even I do it, where I'm just like, am I really going to use this? Am I going to get stuck into this contract for, like a year or something where I'm going to keep paying this amount, just like my gym membership, which I hardly use. So you just have to kind of, I guess, figure out what works. So anyway, so user generated revenue, I thought that would be the thing, that would be the secret to success, but it wasn't. So now it's more keeping it free for everybody, at least for now, keeping it free for all the lawyers and law students, and then getting, like I said, sponsors and law firms and legal tech companies who have the resources, who have the sort of, need to gain access to a community like this. And so that's kind of where things are going now.
Great. So the biggest learning is, commit, but be prepared to pivot if required.
Totally. I think, the other learning I would say is that, sometimes people want everything to be perfect before they launch something. Like, before they launch a business, they're like, oh, I have to get this done, my logo perfect, my, business name perfect. Yeah, okay, you have to get some basics done, like get registered as a business and all of that. But just launch it is what I would say. Just launch it, start doing it. You'll realize things, as you go. Because otherwise, if you just wait till something's perfect, then you'll keep procrastinating over it. At least I would, and I do. Just do it and then tweak it as you go, and you can do a soft launch and then a proper launch or whatever.
Totally agree. It's the old Pareto principle. 80% and go.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you think about the word successful, who pops to mind and why?
It depends how you define success. I think, society has told us that success means you need to be driving a nice car, living in a big house, having a nice job title, which, yes, okay, some people define that as success. For me, yes, I would love all those things, but there's no point to have all those things if you're not actually happy with what you're doing, or you don't have time to do the things you actually like to do, whether it's spending time with family or playing sport or watching a movie or whatever it is that you like to do. I know a lot of lawyers, and I can only speak, I guess, on behalf, like in terms of the legal community. I know a lot of lawyers who make very good money, who are doing, successfully, I guess, if you looked at them from the outside, but they're all, like, not all, quite a lot of them, not happy, whether it's, because they don't have work-life balance or because they don't get to, do the things they actually want to do. So yeah, it just comes down to what you want in life and what you deem as successful.
So can you give me a name?
Oh, as a name. Again, it just comes down to, like, if you were to say, okay, who is really successful in the conventional sense of the word, I would think of, maybe some law firm partners who've reached the top of their game or things like that. But I don't know if they're actually successful according to my definition, which I believe is, you need to be happy and able to do the things that you like to do. You don't need to earn billions of dollars. You just need to earn enough to be, comfortable and secure and provide for your family. And anything on top of that is a bonus.
Yeah, it's a good answer. And you know, as you're giving it to me, I'm reflecting, because we've done about, I think we're up to about 38 of these interviews now. And it's really interesting the different answers from different generations. And I'm well and truly a different generation to you. But and I don't know, I have no idea how the millennials and all this fits in now, but I'll call you the younger generation of founders that I'm interviewing. And the answers that the younger generations of founders are giving are very much aligned with what you just said. Success is how you define it. A lot more about the material things of success aren't necessarily as important as the lifestyle, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing you. I hope I got that right.
No,
but it's quite interesting I suppose the different views. And as someone who's 62, who's been a CEO of multiple companies, large and small, international, in Australia, I was driven very much by the material for many, many years. And now, because my wife and I were blessed that we were able to adopt 2 kiddies from Ethiopia 8 years ago. Thank you. But I'm 62 with 2 8-year-olds. And my focus on success is now significantly different to when I was single and when it was just my wife and I, doing the business of first class jetting around the world. Now my focus on success is, last Friday, my son, under 8, in the team I coached, got best and fairest, and it was the proudest day of my life type thing. So it's really interesting how definitions of success change.
I think so. I think success, like you said, it's not just a generational thing. It's also what phase of life you're at. At the beginning of my career, I probably would have said, yes, I want to be at the biggest law firm. I want to be earning lots of money and all that. Now I'm kind of a bit more, I guess, hopefully a bit more mature in terms of how I think. I've got an 8-year-old son. And so, I think success, what's the point if I'm earning lots of money, but if I can't spend time with the people I love or do the things I like? And so I think that's quite important.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are you a reader? Any books, podcasts you might recommend?
So this is what I do. When I fly to any destination at the airport, I usually buy a book thinking, oh yeah, I'll read this on the plane. I never end up actually reading it. I usually just watch some, silly movie that's on the plane system. So I'm not much of a reader. I used to be. And then I think the legal degree kind of ruined me, because that's all lawyers do, right? We read a lot. And so it's hard for me to kind of say, okay, now I'm going to read for pleasure as well. But maybe, I think I need to, my brother bought me a Kindle thinking that would get me back into reading. So I need to maybe, start doing it a bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Any last piece of advice for aspiring CEOs or CEOs out there?
I think I'm going to quote Richard Branson or paraphrase him a little bit. I think he said, and this quote has always stuck with me, whether it's been, in my career at a law firm or a company or even now, if somebody gives you a good opportunity, just say yes, and then figure out how to do it later. Similarly, what I said earlier is, if you want to launch something, if you have an idea, if you want to just do it, and then figure it out as you go along, because sometimes, we just say no to good opportunities, or we put away or put off good opportunities because we're afraid, or because maybe, we have a lot of pride or some sort of ego where we're like, oh no, I must be, perfect. It must be exactly up to my standards. But actually, it's never really going to be, up to your standards. You're going to have to, start somewhere. So that's I guess my 2 pieces of advice is, just start something and then figure it out later. And also don't say no to opportunities, say yes, and then also figure out how to do it later.
Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. And, I actually think, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this video series we're doing here. And, this, as I mentioned to you earlier, this is an idea I had while sitting on the beach in Fiji with my family in July. And it seemed like a great idea at the time. So we just, okay, how are we going to do it? And I've now got my team now because there's different elements of the thing. If you think, we've got to recruit you and other speakers, we've got to then produce the videos, then we've got to send them out to, put them on YouTube, promote them and link to, all of this stuff, newsletters, etc. And the team that is that's doing this now is, and I'm a great believer in who, not how. So, who can make this happen for you? Not if I get bogged down in how, it won't happen. So, and being a typical entrepreneur, we all try and do it ourselves, and therefore, a lot of the time it doesn't happen. So, my team that is making this happen now, I've got. The recruitment of speakers is done by a UK company, but the actual person is based in Michigan in the US. I do the interviews. As I mentioned to you, the video editor is in Ukraine. The two people who actually manage the process, one is in the Southern Highlands, one is in the Philippines. There's someone else involved as well. But this virtual team that who, not how, I went searching for the people to do it, and bang, here we are, 38 interviews in, and it's a fabulous. I think it's a fabulous product. So I agree with you. It's just work it out and get on with it.
Agreed. Thank you.
Great piece of advice, Ryan. Ryan, thanks so much for joining me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I look forward to seeing more of these videos and more of these amazing speakers that you're getting. Not that I'm saying I'm amazing, but I think this is a really great idea, and you should keep going, and great to see it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.